This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to all entrepreneurs, from the person just starting up to the one that is already well established. My goal is to help you grow. I am your host, Isaiah O'Connor. So today I'm going to start off with my sponsor, Audible. It's audible.com, link in the description below. What is Audible? Audible is audiobooks. People read books, you get to listen to them. It's great if you're really busy. I've got the podcast, attempting to try to keep up on the blog. I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old boy stuck home because of coronavirus, and trying to run a balloon business, and plan for my comeback here coming up soon. And I picked up another job planting trees in the meantime to make ends meet until I can reopen my business. I've got a lot on my hands. I don't have a lot of time to sit and read. But you know I do have a lot of? Time driving in my car and time walking around and planting trees. I can listen to things. So that means I can listen to my books. So if you're really busy, don't have time to read, but you want to read and consume books, multimillionaires, multiple businessmen read a lot of books. It's very important to read. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, read. It will help you succeed. So this is the easy way to go. Go check them out. 30-day free trial, $14.95 after a month afterwards. Quite honestly, if I had the choice between Audible and Netflix, I'd take Audible. Just me. And if you cancel the account, you keep your audiobooks, you get 30% off of all additional purchases. You can exchange your audiobooks if you don't like it. You can swap it for free. Great customer service. You can cancel it anytime. You're not locked in. They're really great. So go check them out. They're amazing. Audible.com. Okay. So today I'm going to put a little twist, ironically enough, think outside the box about thinking outside the box. Yeah, if you're in business, leadership, or anything like that, it's turned into almost a cliche that you need to think outside the box, which I agree is very important. But I may come back to thinking outside the box, and it's very important, and I'm going to talk about that, I'm sure, sometime in the future, but it is rather cliche, and it's something people kind of know about. However, have you ever thought about learning outside of the box? Now, what do I mean by learning outside the box? You see, I've come to find that a lot of lessons you learn in business can be applied to your regular life, and a lot of lessons in your regular life can be applied to business. And if you've been listening to my podcast for any length of time, you probably realize that because over the last few months, I've put in a lot of podcasts where I've learned something or realized something or was inspired by tree planting. Yeah, planting trees has inspired a lot of podcasts because it made me think about business from a new angle. It made me think about, it helped inspire me about different things in the business realm. And there's other places you can learn that are not business related. Now, where are some of these places? Well, different areas. If you've noticed, I've grabbed business lessons from watching YouTube videos on the Marvel Cinematic Universe versus DC, or why Marvel's more successful than DC, or whatever. Yeah, I'm a Marvel fan. It's pretty much clear by now if you've been listening from the beginning. So, yeah, I've got ideas learned from watching a company I like. But where else can you look? Well, of course, any leadership training from any source is always a good thing. That always helps in business. I learned a lot of leadership from a missionary school, a Christian missionary school that ran a leadership school that I took that ran 3 months long. So that was very intense. I learned a lot from there. Not necessarily business related, leadership, primarily towards leading groups and kind of a church leadership, missionary leadership type of thing. But on the flip side, it's leadership, and it's was able to apply it to business. And of course, business books and all this stuff, that's your typical place you might go to find. But have you ever thought of history books, history lessons, history lectures, books written by famous people in leadership sometimes not? Matter of fact, one book, which I'm actually going to, that's not really a book. There's a lecture series entitled History's Great Military Blunders, or something along those lines. When I do the official podcast on that series and give it a review and break it down, I'm going to get the exact title and the proper professor and all this stuff. But in that book, the professor goes over some of the incredible, horrible military blunders of all time, and he pulls out the lessons we can learn of what not to do when it comes to military battles. And it's applicable to business as well. Just as a quick little idea here, one of the key ideas is you can't fight last war. You can't fight the last war this time around. In other words, when a general starts fighting the last war, not this current war, he's likely to fail. When a general has, I think this happened in World War One or World War II, sorry. One of the British battleships, I can't remember the name of it right now, was sunk by bombers. At the time, the Britons thought that battleships were going to be the forefront of battle, and they had the most technological battleship they could ever make, the most cutting edge, bleeding edge, awesome battleship ever made, and a handful of Japanese fighter bombers took it out within a few minutes, if I remember correctly. Knocked it out, completely sunk it. They were shocked because air power had come into being during World War I, and aircraft carriers had come into being, and they were building ships and giant battleships that were the king of World War I, but World War II came along and airplanes became the most effective naval and ground weapon available. But when you are fighting the last war, not the current war, you can lose, and lose big, and lose quickly. Now, what does that mean towards business? Well, again, kind of like I mentioned last podcast, sometimes businesses get stuck in the past. They try to market to the same way that has always worked for them. The last big marketing plan they did worked really great, and so they do it over and over again and keep the same focus on the same market segment, and sometimes that market segment is not there. That's fighting the last war. You need to up your strategy, change your game, and do something different. Very powerful lesson. Great for business, great for life. You can't always, it's good to learn from history, but you can't always keep doing the same thing you always did, because again, you'll keep getting the same result. And as you know, that's kind of a definition of insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Exactly. But I got that lesson and many other lessons from a book about military blunders. I just thought it seemed like a cool title. I'm a history guy. I'm a World War II, World War I, battles history guy. I'm into that type of thing. It's kind of fun for me. But I've learned a lot about things that can be applied straight to business, about leadership, about what good leaders do, what bad leaders do. All these things were in that. I've learned from a book on history about military blunders, not something you'd think of as a business book. But I would recommend finding that course and listening to it as a business book and take business lessons from it, because you can. I've read about a guy or I listened about a guy who his company was going down, and so he got the book The Art of War and gave it to all his employees and made everyone read the book The Art of War, and they started winning using tactics from the art of war, declaring war on their opponents. Not a business book. Books on great leaders. Highly recommend. Military leaders, political leaders, great men in history. You can learn things that you can apply to business. I read Winston Churchill's books on World War II. Fascinating insights. And again, learn business lessons of strategy, long-term strategy, thinking about the long term, thinking about getting allies, thinking of things that you can take in and incorporate into business and everyday life. So that's another example. And even novels, fantasy novels, as you relax, always be open for catching little bits and pieces of wisdom that might be in there. Some business acumen that the author might have that might slip in, and they may or may not even realize how important something is. Now, that's a little bit less often, but I've seen it happen where certain ideas, certain themes can come through, and you can learn and apply them to your business. So, as I've said before, you need to be have a teachable spirit, always be learning, but always expect to find lessons that you can use in business and life from sources that are not necessarily business and life sources. I mean, of course, if you go listen to someone like Zig Ziglar, you're going to get some great business and life tips. And you know that's where you go there. But you don't expect a course on military history to show up and give you some great business advice. But yet, it can. So, with that, I just am encouraging you, wherever you go, whenever you're enjoying watching TV, relaxing. Of course, a lot of business people don't have time to watch TV and relax, but if you do, say you're just listening to an audiobook like I do of great military disasters or blunders. I do that for fun. It relaxes me. Look and be aware you might find some really cool stuff in there that you can apply to business. You never know where information and inspiration will hit. Just be aware and be ready. Maybe take notes. Maybe have your phones nearby. You can record a little note to yourself or whatever. Just learn outside the box. Like I said, look around you. Whenever you're doing anything, pay attention. You might learn something that you didn't expect to learn from an unlikely place. But grab that, take it, and use it, and grow your business. Anyway, y'all have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Okay, just as a reminder, we do offer a free 1/2 hour, no obligation consultation. All you need to do is go to our website and contact us through there, or you can contact me directly at my O'Connor Bootstrap podcast Facebook group or our Atheoz.com Facebook page as well. And if you would like to support this channel, the best thing you can do, of course, is to like and share and subscribe. That helps the most. Or you can check out one of our affiliate links. And of course, I do have a PayPal and a Patreon account, and the links will be in the description below. Thank you very much. You all have a good day. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast and Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. For other podcasts, past episodes, and related blogs, please check out our website at www.atheoz.com. That is www.atheoz.com or theoz.com. Until next time, I've been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.